Hello and welcome to another episode of He Says, She Says Film Reviews. I'm Dave G, and joining me is my co-host,
Lee G.
And tonight we're going to be taking a look at Guy Ritchie's brand new film, Wrath of Man, which is still out in cinemas because of our lockdown that we've been through. It's been extended in cinemas. So, Lee, what did you think of... well, first of all, I should probably talk a little bit about the film. Of course, it stars the man himself, Jason Statham, playing H, a character who just goes by the name of H throughout the entire film. And at the start of the film, he is accepted into the training program of an armoured car company who is suffering because they recently had a robbery that ended with two of their drivers dying. So they're pretty impressed when H comes along, because during his training with Bullet, played by Holt McCallum, he shows to be kind of an average guy, but only after a couple of days in the job, he wards off another robbery and is instantly idolized by Boy Sweat Dave, played by Josh Hartnett. But not everybody at the armored car company likes him being there. There's a few guys who are kind of skeptical about why this guy is working there, and even as an audience, you're not sure whether he's there to be a hero or a villain. And I won't ruin too much of this movie because it has some brilliant Guy Ritchie twists and turns throughout this film that exposes the story. So I'll just leave it at that for a synopsis of the film. What did you think of Wrath of Man?
I think for anyone who likes Jason Statham action movies, they will like this. It's typical Jason Statham type of movie. There's revenge, there's violence, there's a high body count, I would say, within the movie. And I think the acting was quite good. It's not... it's not an amazing drama type film. It is more action. Well, that's what I found it to be. Now, I figured out a bit of a twist early in the film. But if you watch the trailer, unfortunately, it gives most of the storyline away. So when I saw it, I hadn't seen the trailer. So I recommend, if you haven't paid too much attention to the trailer or taken too much away from the trailer, don't watch it again before you watch the movie, because I actually think it's a bit of a spoiler. It gives too much of the storyline away. It is rated R for, I guess, the violence that's in it, a lot of coarse language, of course. But yeah, I guess the revenge and vengeance that's in it really makes it that R rating. Of course, Jason, in his role as H, has a set of specialised skills that, only Jason Statham type character has. But yeah, it kept me entertained the whole movie, and it's a good just action movie just to sit and watch, and after a long day at work, not to think too much, and just to have a good time at the movies.
Yeah, it's typical Guy Ritchie. I've been a huge Guy Ritchie fan since Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, and you pretty much know what you're going to get with a Guy Ritchie film. High profanities, high body count, but always an interesting story. Guy Ritchie's one of those director screenwriters that really likes to make his audience work when they're watching a film like this. And I think even going back to his early films, like I mentioned, Lock, Stock and Snatch, he always kind of made an audience try and work out what was happening. He wouldn't always give stuff away for characters. For me, he's only ever made one bad film. That was the time when he made the mistake of working with his then wife Madonna with Swept Away, which went away from his normal gangster crime style that he likes to work in, and he made an absolutely dreadful film. Last year, I think it was, 2020, he kind of really showed us that the old Guy Ritchie was back with this amazing movie called The Gentleman, which I think just took everybody by surprise. It made my top 10 films, and he's back, I think, with Wrath of Man. What did you think of that twisting, turning kind of storyline that he had here? Because it was doing flashbacks, flash forwards, but that was in order for that secrecy around who H was to kind of settle in first. Did you like that? Because I know that you don't always like flashbacks and that in movies.
I prefer to see, as you know, a movie from start to finish rather than it start, somewhere in the middle of a storyline and then flash back and forwards. But that is a personal choice for me. Other people may be quite okay with that. So yeah, for me, as always, I would prefer just to see from start to finish. But in this movie, it was fine. It didn't ruin it at all. It's just more of a preference for me.
Yeah, definitely. And I also really liked the soundtrack for this film. Not that it was like a soundtrack of hit music or anything like that. It was a very kind of blaring soundtrack in that it was constantly like dun, dun, like that at you kind of thing. And that was building the suspense in a lot of the scenes. A lot of people have also mentioned the fact that this is only the second movie that Guy Ritchie's ever made where he's set it in America. He normally sets his films in Britain. So for him to set this movie in Los Angeles is actually pretty different, considering that his main star is also British, Jason Statham. But him and his cinematographer do this amazing thing in this film where they kind of make LA look like a bleak London, like it's not all sunny days and everything like that. He makes the weather in this film appear as bleak as the storyline that he's telling, and I think that adds to the story as well. What did you think of the cast around Jason Statham as well? Because I was really, really impressed to see Josh Hartnett back. I've been a huge fan of Josh Hartnett since The Faculty, and then of course he went on to make the big blockbuster in Pearl Harbor, and he kind of disappeared after making 30 Days of Night. So what did you think of that cast around Jason Statham, especially getting to see Josh Hartnett again in a big blockbuster?
Yeah, it was good to see him on the big screen. I'd really taken note of that. I've seen him in things previously, and it was kind of like, oh, he's not been around for a while. But I think he was in Penny Dreadful, I think.
Yeah, he went back to the small screen, but not so much the big screen.
Yeah, so seeing him on TV, I'd seen him in some of the season 1 of Penny Dreadful. But it was good, to see him back in the cinemas. And yeah, hopefully that gives him a platform to go on to some other big movies as well, because I think he's quite a good actor, and I've missed not seeing him around.
Yeah, and some other actors have got some interesting parts here too. Andy Garcia plays an FBI agent that you're kind of always questioning what side is he on. Scott Eastwood, again, I think is becoming more and more like his dad now. He's taking on more of these rougher kind of roles, and it was good to see him there. Eddie Marsan is another interesting one being in this as well. Eddie Marsan's one of those guys that quite often plays the Weasley untrustworthy characters in British films. So to see him in a film set in America, you're kind of almost instantly thinking, what's he up to? Simply because of the characters that we've seen him play in the past. But I think that actually works, because how did you feel about the fact that you never really knew who was good or bad in this film?
Yeah, I mean, I had my suspicions about who was good and bad. As I said, that I kind of picked up on some of the twists early. But yeah, I think it did get you guessing at times, like, am I really picking up that they are bad, or is this really the good one? So I think, it keeps you guessing, even if you think you know, it does keep you guessing a little bit throughout the movie.
Yeah, and I was really impressed with Neema Algar as well, playing Dana in this, because she actually stepped in pretty late into the production. Sandra Bullock was supposed to play her part, and I don't know why Sandra Bullock didn't end up being in the film, but yeah, she was replaced with a virtually unknown actress who I thought, again, was one of those characters where you weren't 100% sure whether she was good or bad. So yeah, I thought she really stepped up with the film as well. But yeah, for me, to sum up this movie, I would have to say that this is Guy Ritchie back at his best. He's once again working with the leading man that he's had star in 4 of his films now, Jason Statham, and together these two just know how to make cinematic magic. what's your final thoughts on it?
I think, as I often mention, I like to see a lot of character build-up in the storyline as it gets into the story. So I guess with the flashbacks, you don't get that at the start, and so you don't connect with the characters straight away. You do throughout the movie, but I think there could have been a stronger way to connect you to those characters before it became action.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because you don't ever actually learn his name. He's only ever referred to as H in the film because he never gives his actual name to anybody. And the last time I think I saw that happen was with a very early Daniel Craig kind of crime movie as well, where Daniel Craig's character never had his name mentioned either. So it's a kind of British thing that they do in films sometimes, and I think sometimes it works quite well and sometimes it doesn't, but it does work very well here. What are you going to give Wrath of Man out of 5?
I'm going to give it 3 out of 5.
Yep, I'm giving it 5 out of 5. I absolutely love Guy Ritchie's movies, and I think this is absolutely one of his best. I'm actually keen to go back now and have a look at the French film that inspired him for this film. There's a French film called Money Truck that came out in 2004 that Guy Ritchie said was his inspiration for this film. So I'd like to go back now and check that out. But for me, Wrath of Man is Guy Ritchie and Jason Statham back at their brilliant best. And that's it for this episode of He Says, She Says Film Reviews. I've been Dave G.
And I'm Lee G.
And we'll be back soon with another episode. See you then.